Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Greg. Thank you so much for joining us on Wolfi's Talks.
Thank you, Wolfi. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes. I think we had now a few people on the show, and I can tell you when we announced that we're going to have you on the show, I haven't seen people in our shop dancing and jumping up and down. The whole South African crew, the Brits, Dan, Josh, everyone, they were so excited, and I got some messages from them said, listen, no man, this guy is an absolute legend, and he is the greatest, and he's been around forever, and it's just unbelievable. So you're such a popular writer, and I really enjoy obviously researching all the people when we start talking about them, and it's really actually quite exciting. And I just want to point out a few things, and it's I think so far the longest list of victories and successes we had, and I just mentioned a few because otherwise the hour would be over. You have been turned pro in 1999 and racing successfully, winning 2 Norbert championships, 3 times world champion with the UCI, 3 times overall champion with UCI. You were the first African to receive UCI medals for cycling. In total, you got it to 10 medals, 21 World Cup victories, and over 78 podiums. This is just an unbelievable career. So you're an absolute legend in the sport.
Thank you. Yeah, to be honest, when you go and while you're saying them all, I was just I was thinking, wow, I have been around a long time, and it doesn't feel that way. It really doesn't feel that way.
We want to show a first clip that people really understand what are you doing, and that's from 2017. And we watched the clip, and then you maybe can show us. We tried this the first time, so I hope it works. So Will, now it's your chance to shine. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. How is this when you watch these things? Can you remember all the pedal strokes? Can you remember all the corners? Or how much do you really remember of a run like that?
I remember a lot about that race. So I had about 10 or 12 of my good friends flying from South Africa to come and watch. So there was a lot of pressure for me to perform and do well. And I'm sitting in the start hut watching my teammate go off. He qualified second, so he goes off second to last. He goes off in front of me and it's starting to rain. And I watch him go down the track and he hits this bridge and it's all wet and he just crashes and goes off track. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is bad luck. You know, I've had a great qualifier, I won the qualifier, and now I'm starting last in the final and it's raining. So out the gate, I just went pretty hard. Was pretty cautious over the section where my teammate crashed, and now the rain's coming into my face. So we've got, like, on my Oakley goggles, I've got these tear-offs.
Yes.
You know, it's like a laminated piece of film. And so I knew I had to sit down and take a tear-off before I go into that really tricky wood, just to make sure I could see which line or which route to take. And so I got down midway, had to pull a tear-off off because I couldn't see, and knew I'd lost some time. But I was so tired from working really hard up top, knowing that it was wet and I had to be a little bit cautious up top. So I was really spent by the midway, and it was quite a struggle getting down to that line. You know, you're trying to put in every pedal stroke. And then actually in the last section where I'm normally really strong, I lost probably half a second, but it was a great race. I mean, that's got to be one of my all-time favorite winning races. So that's definitely up there.
Unbelievable. I want to start a bit earlier. So your career started on your first birthday when your parents, Jackie and Jeff, got you a 50cc motorbike, and you became immediately one of the kings of the Royal Natal show in Pittsmarysburg, and you were jumping over cars. Obviously not at 4 years old, but a little later. So how was this to be? That must be like a big carnival coming to town, and then you were the guy jumping over these. How many cars did you jump over?
Well, it was a good way to get out of school at the time.
Okay.
But I grew up racing motocross. I started racing motocross at 4, and I think I was 12, and we decided we had to all group up together to have like a school school fair, and we had to do our little stores. And me and my friends decided, well, we'll ask my dad to build a jump, and we'll jump cars for like charity, and then we'll give the money to charity. And that all went really well. And all of a sudden I got this call from the Royal Show, which is this big show that comes into town. And the show came in, and they asked me to do it. So I thought it was really cool. I was 12 at the time. So it wasn't at the Royal Show where I got up to 16 cars, but that was probably the highlight of my jumping car career on motorbikes.
Wow. Wow. 16 cars lined up and you jump over. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, it didn't seem too bad at the time, and but it's probably a little more risky than I realized. But at the time, I felt comfortable and it didn't bother me. I thought it was all right.
And how's it was it your father Jeff who was agreeing with the bike, or is it your mom Jackie? She was against it, or how was that in the household when dad gave you the present like a 50cc motorbike?
I think it was more me. My dad had taken me out to this park, and he had paid probably R2 or whatever it was for me to ride this motorbike, and I had to sit in the back, and so the kid had to ride the motorbike, and I was just like, that's not really good fun. Can I try ride the bike? And not allowed, wasn't allowed. And eventually I got convinced the guys that I could do a lap. So my dad was walking behind me holding this little bike, and I eventually managed to accelerate away from him and he couldn't keep up. So that's where it all started. My mom's never really been into the extreme side. She's very conservative. So riding motocross, she supported it, but never came and watched. And like with downhill, when I race cross country, she'd come and watch. When I race downhill, I'd either crash in front of her or something would happen in front of her. So she decided not to come to that either. So that's just my mom. So she watches under the covers. She has a blanket over her face watching. She's not she's a bit nervous.
But motorbike and motocross is still something really close to your heart. So did the roof over Africa, or the roof of Africa, that was like a grueling enduro race. Can you tell us about this race?
Yeah, so, growing up on motorbikes, I always felt like I'd like to do one of these popular events. South Africa is really well known for, you have the Comrades Marathon, you have the Doozy Canoe Marathon, we have all these different one-day events. And one of the big ones is the Roof of Africa. And so I thought, well, I've got like a month to train. When I finish my World Cup season, I can go into a month of training and get ready for the roof. And the year before, I had a shoulder surgery, so I went and watched, and I kind of got a bit excited, and the bug kind of got to me. I thought, well, this is my chance. Let me do it the following year. So I did. I trained for a month and went out and did the roof. It was a great experience. I loved it.
Fantastic. So when you were a little boy and you started as well, I think cross-country racing and then downhill racing, and you were training or racing, who was the rider in your head? I think little Greg was riding his bike and you were thinking you pretend to be whom? Who was the rider who was your inspiration?
So when I was a kid, I was still really into motorbikes. So I remember being 6, 7 years old. Motocross was my thing, but I used to love riding around the garden on my BMX. And the guys I used to look up to were motocross riders, like great South African rider Greg was one of my heroes growing up. Slowly, as I moved over to mountain biking, it was the guys like Nicholas Vilio, Steve Peet, and all of them.
Fantastic. Did you meet any one of these people? Then obviously you were riding with Steve Peet, but the motocross people, did you ever meet them and tell them that this was your inspiration for your amazing career?
No, I haven't. But the good thing now on Instagram is I can follow him, and that feels pretty good.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Fantastic. Your sister Bridget was very successful as well in downhill mountain biking. How long was she faster than you?
She was faster than me for quite a while.
Yeah.
And she was actually the one that got me into racing. I was, I'm not really into watching sport. If it's maybe a rugby game in the afternoon, there's always, that's more the reason to hang around and watch rugby and maybe have a drink and a barbecue or a braai. But if I go somewhere and watch it, I just get really anxious, and I just feel like I should either be on the field or be on the track. I mean, I hate watching Formula One live because I feel like I want to get in the car and drive. So my sister was racing mountain bikes and I was racing motocross. So the weekends I wasn't racing motocross, I used to have to go watch her race mountain bikes. And then I'd be there with my BMX hanging out in the pits, and I'd be like, I'm just going to ride instead. So I entered my first race on a BMX just because I hate watching sport.
Very cool. Very good. Who do you think was your biggest inspiration to start a sport? Was your dad as well into mountain bike racing, or how did this all come along?
My dad had to be a big inspiration. I mean, I grew up looking at a lot of images of him racing motocross, And so I think that was the natural transition into two wheels, was following my father's footsteps. So it wasn't at all that he pushed me into it. I think he got me a BMX, and that was the first bike I got. And somehow I just found this love for motorbikes. And then my parents bought a bicycle shop when I was racing motocross, and that kind of threw things quite a bit. And at the time, not really good. You know, I was quite serious about motocross, but now my parents were spending the weekends in the bike shop, and I couldn't be training or practicing motocross. So my results started to slide a bit. And that's when my sister was racing mountain bikes, and I was giving that a go. And I started to fare pretty good in mountain biking, and that's where I started to fall in love with mountain biking.
Mm-hmm. But then you went to Europe to start racing, because obviously mountain biking downhill was way more popular, I think, at the time in Europe, and it was just a much bigger sport. How was the first time you went overseas to Europe?
The first time I went overseas was in 1997. I went over to Châteaudet in Switzerland to race in the World Champs. And my overall trip was really good. Race results, I qualified quite good and had this massive crash in the final. But that was the decision I had made. I'd come home from that, and I was 15 at the time. And I said to my parents, you know, I really need to leave South Africa and go and race in Europe. And I think this mountain bike thing, I can maybe do all right. I just need to learn how to race on these European tracks. So that was my first experience of Europe. But my true experience of Europe was the following year, and that was tough. You know, when you're going over with a team and you got all your friends around you, that's easy. That's just a holiday. But when you got to go and live in a new country and you got no friends or family with you, then it's tough. You know, the cuisine is suddenly a bit harder. You just want to speak English. I mean, back then we couldn't do video call like we do now. We had no WhatsApp or Skype, so it was a lot harder back then.
Mm-hmm. But I think family is very important. I saw some of the video clips, and you always feel, obviously, coming home, South Africa, Pietermaritzburg, coming home to your family. When you come home, what is your mama cooking for you? What's the main thing you ask her to do?
She's got a great spaghetti bolognese. That's one of the first. But yeah, I still see a lot of my family. Unfortunately, my nephews live an hour away, but my nieces are pretty close, so they're always around.
Very nice. Yeah, and I see they are big fans of yours. They follow you and they watch you on TV, and I know that's great.
I think I'm like that naughty uncle when they always get spoiled. You know, if mom says you can't have chocolate, and you're at my house, you get chocolate.
You get everything you want. That's good. That's good. That's
Pretty
what uncles are for. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a good scapegoat for them.
Yes. I asked the team to send me some questions, and one of the guys who was really excited is Stan, and he said, you're one of the people who had a lot of setbacks during his career, some injuries and things, but he said this guy is unstoppable. So I just want to speak a bit about racing. And do you think that your success is mainly talent, or is it really your hard work, the practice, the attention to details and everything like this? What do you think is the key of having such a long career?
I would say I'm pretty competitive, very competitive actually. That's a part of it. So regardless if it's an injury, I see it more as something coming up against me, and I feel I need to get on top of it. So I've always treated injuries that way, and maybe that's how I've recovered. I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm sure there's a bit of talent in there, but I also feel I'm not very confident. So I'm not a very confident rider either. And I feel like when I'm on track, I maybe pay a little bit more attention to detail and trying to squeeze a little bit more out of my bike and out of the track than others, just because I feel like I'm not as quick as the others. So although it's possibly not the best thing to not be confident, it also makes you tick every box and make sure everything is running smooth. So I find that's probably one of my strengths.
Mm-hmm. But I think humbleness is for sure something to keep strength. I think if somebody, a lot of times you see people getting a little bit too cocky, and then they're risking things or not preparing well. So I think it's for sure one of the strengths, if you can prepare. And is your personality changing when you feel like you get into this race mode, you put the helmet on, and is there a certain ritual which you do before your race, and that just changes the Greg Minnaar to the Greg Minnaar we see now on talking to you right now? Do you fairly laid back, and then when you're in racing mode, what's changing?
I get pretty serious into a race. I feel like a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of panic going on. Probably more panic going inside my head, making sure. And that's probably downhill racing. It's a tough sport. It's not like we all starting on the same start line, and I can see my competitors in front of me, and I can just dig a little deeper to try and catch them. We've got 2 days of training and qualifying, and I absolutely have no idea where my competitor is, or who my competitor is, or what line they are on track. So you have to be 110% on each part of your routine or race. So that makes it kind of difficult and makes it pretty stressful. So I think helmet on, it's pretty tense, and I feel it's like this mad hamster wheel just going, and everything's just it's manic. I think I'm a little bit more relaxed off the bike, but also I think in the race scenario, I think once that race or the first day of practice starts, I think I get zoned into race mode.
And who do you think was your biggest competitor or the biggest nemesis in terms of motivation? And do you needed this motivation, or you had enough intrinsic motivation to be training every day and preparing yourself? Or was it important that you had somebody to aim for and somebody you felt was challenging you?
I've always had a pretty good work ethic towards training. And I feel like being a professional rider, the mindset I've always maintained is we get paid to train, and then racing's what we do for fun, because it is what we do for fun. We're competitive people, so we want to challenge ourselves, and so I've maintained that through my off seasons of training. So yeah, I don't think I've struggled on that way, but it's definitely as I get older, it's tough to keep going out in those same training routes, and I'm having to mix things up a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You use other sports to keep fit. I know you like surfing, golf. You do a bit of running.
Was golf a sport?
Not really. Yeah. I thought I'd say it. Maybe for your flexibility, for your core strength, maybe a little bit in walking. Yeah.
We're trying to use it as some kind of excuse, but no, I think it's important to try and fit in all these different sports into it. I still ride motocross once a week, and I think that's really important for my strength and keeping my eye for speed. I try and surf as much as I can, normally once or twice a week, and that's just more relaxation and just getting your mind off things. We have an incredible animal, which is really big shark. That lurks our waters, so it keeps your mind off everything. And when you're not looking for a wave, you're looking around you to see what's floating with you. And golf is also just a thing that I'll try and fit in. I wish I was just better at golf. I'm just really not that good. And then it's the usual. I run quite a bit, road cycle, mountain bike, and gym. Those are the main four components to my training.
Do you feel the surfing has helped you kind of for the balance and for the flow on the bike as well?
No, it's probably hindered me just because it knocks my confidence as much as it does. It's one of those things where I feel like I'm almost like a professional when I roll in. I've got like really nice surfboards and really nice equipment, and I'm probably the most terrible surfer in the water, but that's like my absolute dream and passion. So it's when I go for a ride and, I'll be on my amazing mega tower, Santa Cruz mega tower, and I'll come back and I'll just hang it up or, whatever. When I go surfing, I come back and I wash my boards and I like clean them up and polish them and put them back on the shelf, and they've got specific places so they don't get damaged with. I just come back from a ride and just lean the bike up and go.
I heard that you should start every 1 or 2 years. You should start a new sport to humble yourself, because sometimes, obviously, when you're the world champion in a sport, and then you kind of set yourself back, and you understand, yes, you're really good in one thing, but maybe there's other things out there and there's other champions. So I think it's a good thing to try something new, and I think to keep as you said, to mix things up and stay fresh. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. I mean, I wouldn't want to try something as hard as surfing every 2 years. Just being at it for at least 10 to 12 years has been hard enough. Never mind trying after 2.
I want to, maybe when you go before the race and you have a certain ritual, you listen to music. What kind of music and what kind of ritual you're going through before the race?
Yeah, so there's you come up with rituals all the time just to try and force yourself to be confident that things are all going your way. Whether it's my usual ones normally come out. I've got quite a few different pairs of O'Neill gloves that I use, and Oakley goggles. So I always set aside my race gloves and goggles, and so those ones I'll only use in the race. And that's as far as my rituals go. Routine, I head up to the top of the hill and we warm up for 45 minutes before the race. And I just have music, just some chilled music. Also, a lot of people try and talk to you while you're trying to focus. So headphones do help with letting people know that you won't be able to hear them and that you're busy. So headphones are on and just focusing on the tracking and going through every little piece and very detailed run. I mean, that's probably one of the hardest things is just repeating the visualization of the track, run after run after run, making sure that you're exactly where you know exactly where you want to be.
And the courses are every year kind of the same, or there's a lot of changes? You don't know if you go to Fort William or whatever, then there's quite a big change, or it's just the change nature brings with it when the nature just changes the course?
Well, nature does change a course. It does. And even if we go to exactly the same track, where the course is taped makes quite a big difference to the line. So we might have been running a certain line on the inside and now we have to change to the outside because the tape is too tight or something. So although you might know the lay of the land, the track definitely does change race to race or year to year.
Very good. The boys in the shop were speaking a lot about the Honda team. This was the team you had before you were part of the Syndicate. And obviously that whole story about the Honda bike and the gearbox and everything, I think there was just kind of something very, very special. And everybody wanted to know what's in that gearbox and so on. So how was this when they approached you to ride for Honda? And did you get as well a motorbike?
I did get a motorbike, yeah. The Honda thing was great. It was an opportunity to learn and understand how such a great company has crafted some of the best machinery in the world. I mean, they've got great cars, they've got great motorcycles, as their Formula One team, their MotoGP team, their motocross team. It's a very, very unique and great company. So as soon as they were making a bike and with a gearbox, I thought this was a great opportunity for me to learn something new, understand how they work, and try and work with them to make a bike out of what they had. I mean, the first test ride I had on the bike wasn't great, but I knew that I had a bit more knowledge about the geometries that we use, and they had some knowledge into certain characteristics of the bike that they want to see handled in the mountain bike. And together we came up with a really good race bike. So that experience was great. I really enjoyed my time there.
I've seen that you have lots of your older bikes in the shop as a little display there. And what's that bike where you have the greatest attachment and the best memories with?
I would say there's two bikes, and one was definitely the Honda, and the other is my 2008 Santa Cruz downhill bike. It was my first year going over to Santa Cruz, and there was just something about the bike. I had a great World Cup season, and there was just something about that bike. The paint job was incredible, very detailed, and yeah, I really liked the bike. Very
good. And looking back, so now you're in year 2020, and what would you tell Greg 1999? What tip would you give him now you know all these things and it's more than 20 years later?
Yeah, I think, I panicked a lot and tried to rush things through my 20s, and I think that's why they flew by so quickly. If something needs to be done, I try and do it right away, and I try and do more, and you just have to relax and things will work out. It's I wasn't quite sure. I remember trying to build up into business and everything else through my later 20s, trying to, who knows, you're supposed to finish racing when you're 30. And so there's this mad rush to make sure I was ready to finish racing and be able to take the next part of my chapter into whatever it was. And that was a mad rush. And looking back, I probably should have just kept racing, focused on racing. I was enjoying it, and I wasn't doing too bad. So 10 years later, and I'm still racing. It's kind of crazy. So I think rushing was definitely one of the things that I would tell myself to slow down on.
Very good. Very good. Fantastic. Then you joined Santa Cruz and the Syndicate team. And I think obviously that was kind of a dream team with Steve Peat, Nathan Rennie, Jason Breitland. That was just an unbelievable force in the sport. So how was this when you joined that crew?
So I'd been racing quite a bit and I felt like this team was kind of refreshing in a way. Mm-hmm. They had a different approach. They had Kathy Sessler as the team manager, and Rob Roskup was the founder of Santa Cruz and ran this team in a way. And he had a great understanding. He was a professional skateboarder, so he understood what it took to be a pro athlete, and he was very understanding. And I think that created a really good environment and a great environment for us to excel at what we do, but have fun at the same time. You're traveling the world, you're going to see all these different places. Now was a good time to have fun and enjoy the travel, and then race well. And that's exactly what we did. It was this almost play hard, race hard mentality. And to me, that was a good home.
Very good, fantastic. There's like now 13 people or around 13 people in the team, and you have 2 young riders who are like, I think it's almost 15 years between you. And how much you can tell them about racing, and how much did you learn from them, how the young generation is racing? So how much mentorship is going for them back with all of you?
Yeah, there's a lot, and I think that's why the syndicate is so successful. The riders do talk amongst each other. It's a unique sport. You're racing against the clock. You're not really racing against other athletes. If I can help my teammates go a bit quicker, or if they could help me, we could all be quicker on the race day. You can follow someone and learn every single line, but if you can't put it together on the race day, it's another thing. So we've always worked well together. I've definitely learned a lot from them. I come from an area where the bikes were set up really slow, rebound suspension, and it was completely different. They come from this area where it's really fast rebounding. So I've had to adjust my style to adapt with them at modern times, and I throw my experience across to them when I can. It's always hard and tricky at times, but we do, and I definitely do feel like I gain a lot from them.
Very good. Yeah, I can imagine. That's the young. I can see this in our business. That's absolutely the young generation brings a completely different story to the table, and I really enjoy this exchange with. We have 2 or 3 generations in the business, which is really nice. Yeah, fantastic. What do you think the teammates would say about you when they have to describe Greg in the syndicate?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not too sure. It's I come from this old era of racing where it was a massive party scene, and it was wild. I mean, now there's not many people at the after party. It's kind of quiet after the race, and it's very professional. Where the era where I came from, it was completely the opposite. It was like you try and be professional as you can up to the race, and then after the race you just blow out and release your steam. So that's kind of that is a difference between generations. So I think as I'm calming down, it's you'll see the generation gap close. But yeah, I don't know what they'd say. It'd be pretty interesting. We should get them on Wolfi's talk.
Yeah, can ask them.
Say.
Very good. What would you say a young racer, when somebody comes up from South Africa and said, "Hey, Greg, I want to be the next Greg Minnaar," what's the tip you want to give him if he wants to get into downhill racing?
It's pretty tough for South Africans to get into it. We limited on downhill tracks, and just downhill bikes generally are expensive. But you can imagine when your currency is 20 rand to the dollar, it makes it a lot tougher. But we've got some great guys coming through. The hardest thing is trying to separate having a good time to racing, and that's really tough to do. You want to absorb as much as you can when you travel, and you want to go into Europe and all these great riding tracks. But when you get to a racetrack, you've actually got to switch over to race mode, and that's trying to conserve as much energy as possible the week prior, training carefully, and just looking after yourself. Where you got young guns coming through and wanting to get to a World Cup race, they're riding all these trails like all week. They get to the start of practice tired, and it's just it's really hard to separate just having a good time to racing. And that's something I'd probably give as advice.
But the big teams obviously help, but you need a certain success to be accepted in such a team. But yeah, that's tough. I think all the beginning is hard when you start a business, when you start a career. That's just a tough school to go through. Yeah, but that's hard. Yeah,
it is hard, and it's very similar to business in a way. You know, all your friends are having fun on weekends, and you're in the business working away. So, and it's a hard one. You know, we ride bikes because it's fun, and then you race bikes professionally because it's also fun. So where's the fun in racing or riding? So that separation it's a super fine line, but it's really important.
I want to take you back to 2013, and we just learned from you that just this place where you're going back to now is just behind behind yourself, and we see it. So I want to ask Will to start the next clip, and we just watch the clip and then we speak about it.
Perfect.
This is amazing. You know what I mean? I watched this clip, I don't know, 4 or 5 times in the last 1 or 2 days, but it really puts a big smile on my face. And but I think obviously it must be a dream come true to win on home soil a world championship title, but as well the immense pressure. I can't believe how much pressure you must have had.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you asked me earlier which was my favorite race to win or something about, and I said Fort William, and it really was, where this race was just a bundle of pressure. I mean, I live literally 1.5 kilometers from the race. It's super close. Is my home soil, and everyone was expecting me to win, and that was just, you know, it was more relief than just having a great race. You know, it was tough, but very memorable. It's not often that an athlete gets to compete at home and literally on their doorstep. And so to have that, I'm very grateful, and to have won it was super grateful. But was it as much fun as winning in Fort William? I don't think it was, because just that pressure was so immense.
I read in one interview you said, I had no plan B. There was no plan B. And I thought that was actually a very strong thing to say, because sometimes in life you have these situations where, you know, listen, maybe I can do what I can, it's good enough, but that's maybe on this day is not good enough. I need to do it. There's no chance and no plan B in there. So yeah, quite an amazing, then pulling it off, obviously it was amazing. Yeah, fantastic.
Well, it's true. There was no plan B. I mean, I know you've traveled to Pietermaritzburg, and these local guys just would not accept second place. You know, to them, I'd raced all around the world. I'd won in many different countries. So why can't you win at home? I mean, surely you know the track more than anyone else, which I hadn't. You know, I'd been in Europe till 1 week before the race, and I'd come home like everyone else and had the same time on the track. Of course, I know the forest. I've grown up here riding in it, but the track is completely different. So you only know the track as much as everyone else. And yeah, so it just makes it really tough. But to the locals, it was, well, if you live here, you must be quicker. You know the track more than everyone, and you're going to win it. So I'm glad I did.
When you go out your training route and you found yourself on that trail again, going down, you remember, is it almost like a flashback when you come around these corners?
It does a bit. And funny enough, this morning we were riding in the forest, and one of the guys, we stopped just above that rock drop. Yeah. And one of the guys said, oh, in the world champs, I landed on the flat, and I couldn't actually remember. And I was just thinking about it, going, wow, man. So watching the video, yes, I did land pretty flat on the drops. So yeah, it's funny, you know. I think at times when I see a really strong sunset, that day it was, you know, where it was in spring, coming into spring, and the sunset was incredible, standing on the podium. And I remember just looking up into the forest and just seeing the sunset, and just thinking, wow, this is incredible, listening to the national anthem play in the background. So yeah, whenever I see a really strong sunset over that forest, yeah, it still brings back some really strong memories.
Fantastic. You know, when listening to the national anthem, when you're somewhere on a podium, this is one on my bucket list. I don't think I will make it unless I make my own event and I make something. I think that must be unbelievable to wear the national colors and then winning something, the World Cup, and you had this 3 times. So yeah, fantastic. Well done for you. Yeah. Is there a street named after you or a place in Pietermaritzburg? Is there a Greg Minnaar Street?
There's not, no. But I do believe in Fort William there is a Minnaar Street, and it has been proposed to council, and it apparently is going to be made. I'm not sure if it was true or rumor, but that I heard in Fort William.
Very good, fantastic. I want to speak a bit about bike setup and how particular you are about this. And I have some technical questions from the guys. You've been obviously around for 20 years or more than 20 years in this sport. What do you think was the biggest invention and what changed the sport in the biggest way?
I think the wheel size definitely changed the way we think about bikes. And not necessarily because the wheel's bigger, we need to get a bigger wheel, but it also stretched the bikes out. And I felt like if you're trying to fit in a 29-inch wheel into a dual suspension mountain bike, you got to increase the wheelbase.
Mm-hmm.
And same when you went from 26 to 27. So the bikes have increased in stability, not necessarily because the wheels are bigger, but because the wheelbase have grown.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that wheelbase growth has probably been the greatest thing we've had. It's made us sit more centered in the bikes. It's allowed us to get the suspension to work better. And the bikes just fit a lot better nowadays than they did.
Mm-hmm. And you're a tall person, so I think it was obviously a nice development for you because obviously your center of gravity being so tall on a 26-inch bike now to 29. I think you have long legs, so it makes the clearance on your bum a little bit better when you have a bigger wheel in your bike. I think it obviously was a development of the industry which worked quite nicely in your favor.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's easier for someone taller to really push the boundaries on the growth of wheelbase. You know, if you a medium height person, you normally ride in a medium and you jump to a large, the industry is not really going to look at you in any significance and go, wow, you know, that's like a tall person riding an XL. They actually need a double XL.
Mm-hmm.
You know, XL was the limit. Mm-hmm. So now when you push in the size of XL, then the industry starts to realize, wow, you actually, you know, most guys who should be riding a medium are now riding a large. We need to grow the extra large to double XL or rename the double XL the XL.
Mm-hmm. Just change the things around. Yeah, very good. As well, I think you're quite particular when it comes to your setup for the bike. So how particular are you? Do you have an example where you say, listen, okay, I'm down to the millimeter, or I'm really, I measure my bike and I need my brake exactly at that point? Or how detailed are you when it comes to details?
Yeah, I'm pretty detailed and not far off. Down to 1.5 millimeters for sure. I can feel. I mean, we move the forks, we pull the forks through the crowns, depending on what track, and you know, I can feel down to 1.5 millimeters for sure.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And I
do get tested. I've got a crazy mechanic who loves testing it. So
Jason Marsh.
We're pretty accurate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So Jason said actually about you that he said he's a pretty handsome guy and he shouldn't ride a mullet. I think he has a quiff.
He did say that.
Yes. Did you try the mullet setup? What do you think? Or you run at the moment 29-29?
I run 29-29. You know, my whole approach to the mullet I haven't felt like it's been on organic growth or growth from the industry. I felt the mullet came about by a rider who was disappointed that Santa Cruz had released a 29-inch bike. He ran his mouth off saying how bad 29-inch was, so he couldn't actually ride a 29-inch bike. And when he finally did, he had a big, strong pushback against riding a full 29, and then that was their way to deviate things to a mullet and try and gain as much as they could from the 29, but just be a little bit different to save a bit of face. To me, that's not really a strong industry push going, wow, it's really better for the industry, let's push that way. So I understand where Loris has gone. Loris has been testing and he's tried the mullet. He feels he doesn't have enough butt clearance on the 29. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's really a strong push for an organic movement towards something that's actually beneficial in the industry. It's not just a marketing craze because someone's said they don't like something, but they actually need to go that way. This is a real problem. So he finds that he's got less clearance, so he's gone to a mullet. So that to me is really understandable and a more natural push in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, it's very good. In 2002, Nicolas Viau retired, and then you said, I want his coach. This was your dream. And since 2002, you're together with Stephan Jerrod?
Yes.
As your coach.
And I'm still working with Stephan today.
Okay, very good. Fantastic. And
yeah, I just thought, you know, he was such a great coach for Nico. They won so many titles, and Stephan's been very instrumental in all of Nico and Ankaro's racing and Olympics and everything else. You know, as soon as the opportunity came I thought it was great to go for it. So I started with it in 2003 was my first year with Stephan.
Mm-hmm. And what has changed in the approach from your side and from the coaching side over the last years you have been working with them?
We change a lot. We assess everything. I'm very I critique myself a lot, and I go through my season going, well, I felt like I might have had too much fitness but not enough power.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I lacked a bit of upper body strength or this and that, or felt this, and we go through everything, and then we structure the program to fixing all these weaknesses and making sure that they're going into the next season. I find that I'll always have a weakness, and if you don't, then it's probably a good time to retire, because unless you're just on this winning streak season after season after season, until that happens, then maybe I need to keep adjusting till I get the right formula. So I always find that at the end of the season, I go through everything, go through my bike, figure out what I need to do, go into the next season, and I do the same with my body.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I had the pleasure to meet some of the Formula One riders while they were here in Abu Dhabi for the Grand Prix. And
Okay.
I met some of the coaches as well, because some of the riders were into cycling, and it was quite interesting to see how they mixed up the training in terms of football. And I know that Nico Rosberg had to go in a pool and dive and make math questions underwater, so to make these quick decisions under pressure of having no air. And obviously you have no air when you're pedaling hard and making these turns and twists and everything like this and making quick decisions. So I think it was quite interesting to see what kind of training they got for all these unbelievable quick reactions they have to have. And I think it's very similar to what you're doing.
Wow. I think so. I'm not doing maths underwater, but it's maybe our version of training is slightly simpler. But that's an impressive routine to go through.
Yes. And they did as well to play football before the race, just to put their mind off, or to just ease off and in between training and stuff. So it was quite interesting to see that. Yeah. You spoke about partying, and obviously that's as well something that the boys were so excited. So I wrote down, obviously there's a lot of rumors about things, parties happen. So what's the craziest rumor you have heard about your parties, which is actually not true?
Oh, there's plenty of those. No, there's a lot. Everything gets exaggerated. I'll stick to that.
and what's a story people think is a rumor and it's a fact? Is there something you can share?
Is there something that you've heard that you want to ask me rather?
I heard that you borrowed once a motorbike from a guy in Sabi, and then you wheeled it up and down the road and finally ended up in the bar, parking it in the middle of the dance floor. Is there some truth in it or not?
Oh, I don't know about that. That sounds a good one, though. It wouldn't surprise me, but I don't recall that one.
But you remember that, or you see that it's changed a bit. So you said years back, it was more that obviously there was more of a party scene, and maybe with Steve Pete and all these guys. And now it has become a bit more serious. So the young generation is not partying as much anymore.
Yeah, I think so. I think the sport's got a lot more serious. It's right now it's in a great place with Red Bull Media and the TV coverage and the teams. There's a lot more teams out there. It's really more professional, and the times are a lot tighter. So, everyone's got to neaten up their act on every kind of level. I think back then the times gaps were bigger, so you had the opportunity to have a bit of fun after the race if you're racing the next weekend. Where now that if you're racing the following weekend, you need to be on your game soon after.
Mm-hmm. I had a question from Dan. So because he's British and he is a big fan as well of Steve Pete. So who could drink more beer, Steve or you?
Steve would probably drink more. He's very well trained. Yeah, he's definitely got a higher tolerance.
Very good. Your dad opened a shop and it was two-wheel in, and now
Yes.
It's named Greg Minnaar Cycle. So are you actively working in the store when you're off season? People come to see you, they want to get the bike set up, they want to get a signature on their Santa Cruz bike?
I am pretty active in the shop, but more on the back end. It's very hard for me to be in the store and keep it consistent for the clients as well. So I do hang out there a lot when I am at home, but I don't know how to work the till. for the very reason that I don't want people to rely that they can come and hang out and I can serve them or help them out, because then I'm not there, then it kind of cuts the vibe a little bit. So I do hang out. We've got a little coffee shop there, and I spend some time there, and but I'm more involved on the back end of the shop than selling bikes and
very nice.
working
But
on
I've seen
bikes.
some pictures.
I do help a hand. I do alleviate the staff when we're short staffed. I do jump in and help, but I think sometimes I'm more hassle than help.
Very good. No, but it's a beautiful shop. I've seen some pictures of it, so very nice.
Thank you.
Do you have a funny or strange habit?
I possibly do. Where's this going?
No. Just a few questions we ask people if they have something, and it leads actually to something. Do you have a party trick? So when you're sitting around or you do something, you have something which you can show us, something you can pull off?
No, I don't. No, not that I know of. No, I wish I did. Maybe this is something I need to work on in the sort of use of the party trick.
I have a party trick. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I've never tried doing that.
That's how I got my wife.
What's the best party trick you've seen?
I think mine is pretty good. No.
Yeah.
We've seen that somebody could make a chicken out of a what do you say? A napkin. Somebody could fold a chicken out of a napkin, which I thought was quite impressive.
Is that a party trick?
I think you sit on a table, and then obviously he said when the party starts and they all sit around and everybody's a little stiff, and he takes his this napkin and he folds it under the table, and then he pulls up a chicken, and that kind of eases in.
I did think I had a party trick, and it was about 6 years ago. I have this group of friends that come and ride motorbikes for the weekend, and we were drinking in this pub, and I had all these bottles on top of this bar table, and I ripped the tablecloth out, and all these bottles just stayed there. And I was like, this is impressive. I've really got a talent. So we put more bottles on and more glasses and everything. I pulled the tablecloth off, and it was perfect. Nothing moved. So then I was like, well, we've got to keep going at this. So we put more glasses and a bar stool and something else. I pulled the cloth, and it was perfect. Nothing moved. So I was like, we must have had a bit to drink. So I said to a friend of mine, why don't you stand on the table and then I'll pull the cloth from underneath you. And I did. And he went down, and so did the table, and it was a mess. So party trick didn't work.
Oh, but yeah, did 3 times. Yeah, like this World Championships. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
4th time didn't work out good.
I like that. Is there something on your bucket list you still want to achieve?
I think on my bucket list, I need to add Dubai, because I've never come in and checked it out.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, and please.
I think that's got to be one of them.
If we can be of help in any sort of way, it would be really fantastic to see you.
So I think, I've never really had a bucket list, but I try and make lists and go along, and I'm a little bit more spontaneous. So something like this, I would say, let's create a bucket list and make a mountain bike ride in Dubai.
Very good.
I think that would be
Fantastic.
incredible.
Let's do this. This is really cool, and I'm sure Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
We are the Santa Cruz partner for the region, so that would be obviously absolutely if we have you here.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
Very
so
good.
Instead of I think we should create a bucket list rather than adding things to one.
Very good. If you had a time machine and you could go forward, or you could go backwards, which direction would you like to go?
I'd probably go backwards.
Backwards, just to change some things, or to do it again, or
just to do it again.
Just to do it again.
Maybe adjust things slightly.
Okay.
I've had, we were talking about some stories whether they're true or false. I don't know if you heard the story about my Santa Cruz High Tower.
No, please.
So we went to go watch Crankworks in Leger in France, and we were staying in the town below in Morzine. So I said to my friends, we're going to have a few drinks watching this. Let's ride our bikes. We'll catch the lifts up and we'll ride them back down, and it'll be great. We don't want to, drink and drive and be responsible. So we ended up having a few drinks and carries on a bit into the night. And so I decided I'm going to go to my mechanic Marshy's house. His house is on the way home. Anyway, I get completely lost. I'm at the top of this mountain on the cliffs, and I just don't know where to go. It's now quite early in the morning, so I'm phoning Marsh, and Marsh, you got to come help me. I don't know where I am. So he comes and picks me up. I've still got my helmet on, and I'm walking with my shoes in my hand. And somewhere along the line, he asked, "Where's your bike?" So I said, "Oh, I must have left it at the pub." So the next day I go look at the pub, my bike's not there. And so I go up with a friend and we try and fly a drone looking for my bike. So somewhere in the French Alps, I lost a brand new Hightower.
Wow.
So that is true. If you heard that, that is a true story. I
Very good.
do believe someone has found it. There was some guys talking in the pub in Morzine saying that they had apparently, when the word had come out about this lost bike, the whole of Morzine went into the mountains looking for it, and someone has found it. But I haven't seen it yet, so I'm still looking.
Very good. That's a good story. I like it. Thank you. I have a few sentences I prepared, and I just want you to finish them for me.
Okay, sure.
A perfect day is?
Starting with the surf and finishing with the mountain bike ride.
Nice. I'm looking forward to?
The World Cup season.
To start off again. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I can ride my bike faster than? Your sister now?
I can. I'm just trying to think of someone that I really want to be faster than. I'd say Loris Vergier.
Very good.
Keep things hot.
It's too early to?
Decide who's going to win the World Cup this year.
Good. I really love when?
Things go my way.
Good. Good. Okay, now I have a few quick questions and I give you two options. On your braai, is there chops or boerewurst?
Chops.
Are you afraid of heights?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is this possible? You know, I mean, you're jumping over, I don't know, so many cars and stuff. And when does it start when you have fear of heights? I have fear of heights.
Yeah, I don't know when it started, but I can't, I've tried to walk across Gold Gate Bridge. I can't walk across it. Mm-hmm. But I've ridden my bike across, no problem. I know that's a bit weird. Okay. In an airplane, from takeoff to landing, I absolutely just shit myself the whole time. My palms get all sweaty and yeah. So for someone who spends like 130,000 miles in the air a year, yes, it's a little stress.
Do you have tattoos?
Do I have to what?
Tattoos? Okay, I have to work on my.
No.
I have to.
I think you said, do I have tools?
Tattoos?
No tattoos.
No tattoos. Do you shave your legs?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Who is the greatest cyclist of all times?
Oh, Greg Minnaar.
Greg Minnaar. Okay, very good. Who is the biggest upcoming talent in downhill cycling?
Upcoming talent. There's quite a few. There's quite a few up and coming. It would be very. I would definitely put Klassen, half South African kid, in there. He's definitely up and coming. There's a lot. It would be hard for me to name them. There's too many.
Okay, good. Which is a nice thing to see and say, because obviously then the sport is growing, and that's great. You use clip-ins or flats?
I use both. So like today, when I'm just playing and riding with my friends, I use flat pedals. When I race, I race clipped in.
Mm-hmm. If you write a book about your career, what is going to be the title of that book?
Oof. That's why I haven't written one, because I haven't come up with a good title yet.
Yeah, the title is it seems to be challenging, and then the rest will come.
Yeah. What would you call it? I'm
not sure. No. Yes. 50 Shades of Wolfi, maybe. Yeah, in the desert.
Yeah, that could work.
Yes. You have
50 Shades of Greg. There we go.
Yeah, 50 Shades of Greg. Yeah, I think that's a top seller. You have a favorite quote you live by, or you just feel inspiration?
You know, I really like a quote by Mark Cuban. You know, from Shark Tank.
Yes.
And Mark Cuban, in a quote, said that I think it was his father said to him, "Today's the youngest you're ever going to be, so live it."
Mm-hmm.
I think that's quite important because we do get carried away trying to live life ahead of the age we actually are.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah, very good. What are you grateful for?
Everything, absolutely everything.
Very good.
You know, I think it's right now we're going through a tough time, you know,
Mm-hmm.
worldwide, and not
Mm-hmm.
just in certain areas. I think, you know, and just to be able to do what we do and be able to be on the, you know, on Zoom chatting to you guys, I think we'll be grateful for a lot.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. If you go to a karaoke bar, what song are you going to perform?
If I go to a karaoke bar and I perform a song, I've really drank too much. It's a good time to go home.
Come on, you lost the bike.
I'm a terrible singer.
Okay.
And so if I am singing, I probably should have gone home.
Okay, good. Good. If you choose holidays, it's in mountains or a beach?
Beach.
And if you wear speedos or shorts?
Shorts.
Yes. Was there a movie lately you watched and enjoyed a lot?
There was one, the one that stands out the most is Whiplash.
Okay.
And it's not a recent movie, but it's the second time I've watched it. So that's the one that comes to mind. Yeah, I would say that Whiplash.
I have to look it up. And you have popcorn with it, sweet or salty?
Salty.
Salty popcorn.
With a Coke. Got to have a Coke with popcorn.
Good. My guys agree. If you had a day and you could spend with a person dead or alive, who would that be?
Would they be alive or would they still be dead?
No, they can, anyone. You could choose anyone. You said, I want to spend the day with this person.
Okay. Let's see. I haven't really thought of that. There's not someone that I've like been stand out that I really would spend time with. Let's go with Elvis. I think that would have been an experience.
Elvis?
You know, yeah, considering he had to fly to Vegas to get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you know, this guy knew how to live life or to just blow a lot of money. So I think that would have been exciting.
Very good. Fantastic. And what lessons cycling has told you about everyday life?
Just to enjoy what you can, really. I think the biggest thing that's happened with this epidemic going around is when you can't do what you love so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really important lesson, you know. It's, you know, and I don't think it's only me that's noticing it. You know, I normally ride in this forest, I never bump into anyone else riding. Now we've just come out of lockdown of having 5 weeks of complete lockdown, not being able to leave the house. And now we're allowed 3 hours to ride or run in the morning. And that forest is just flooded with people.
Yes.
So I think we're all realizing that we've got to just slow down life a little bit and enjoy what we have around us.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, we see similar in Dubai that obviously people now appreciate this more. And I think hopefully your bike shop and your dad's bike shop is busy. And you get lots of customers there, and it's nice to see that people really appreciate it. And I think it's nice to be in the sport, which we both love so much, to get people out there.
That's true, very true.
Thank you, Greg. I think it was just an amazing hour, and we're over an hour already. And I don't want to take too much of your time. I want to be respectful about that. But please, it would be an absolutely honor. And I think my guys are already planning parties and planning karaoke and planning a mountain bike trip. I think that's already in motion as far as I'm concerned. But please,
sounds
whenever
amazing.
you fly to Europe and you make a stopover in Dubai, that would be amazing. And thank you for your time. And I think you're really an absolute legend. And I really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Wolfi. Thanks a lot for having me on the show, and to your whole team for putting it all together. And I definitely think we need to make this bucket list happen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good...
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you very much. Next Friday, we have as well another famous cyclist who was 4 times in the Giro d'Italia, 12 times in the Tour de France. He was winning at Gent-Wevelgem, and he was the right hand of Mark Cavendish. So it's Bernie Eisel on the show for next Friday. So if you enjoyed this one, please join us for the next week as well. Greg, I thank you so much. Yeah, it was a great.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Very good.
Have a good
Ciao.
evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.